Hello, Marianne.
Hello, Abe.
Great to see you.
You too.
What do you have for us?
Well, I want to pick your brain because,
Uh-oh.
because I came across a very interesting little abstract by the Goldsteins, who we know.
Erwin and Sue Goldstein.
Yes.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
And they were talking about using Bremelanotide in men. This is a sexual medicine drug that has been FDA-approved for women. And leave it to Erwin to be creative, right? I mean, all my career, literally all my career, when someone had a particular, like, unusual issue with a patient, a medical or even psychological, but with a medical component at least, they'd always call Erwin, or we would always.
Erwin Goldstein is one of the greats in sexual medicine.
He really is.
In the history of sexual medicine, he will go down. He will be on the Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore of sexual medicine.
I love that.
And he almost single-handedly, he did so much work around male sexual dysfunction, and then almost single-handedly helped create the field of female sexual dysfunction.
The field, yes.
Although there may be some people that would take issue with that, I think that's actually the truth. And boy's in San Diego now, and his wife, Sue Goldstein, works with him with research and all sorts of things. I think she's now, on her own merit, is now the president of ISHWISH, right? The International Society for Study of Sexual Health in Women, either current president or the past president.
And they still see patients in that clinic. Like, they don't just do research.
No, they do fantastic work. Yeah. If there's somebody who's got a really complicated or unusual story,
right,
and somebody says, who can I see in the United States? I always say, go see Erwin.
Right.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And they're dear friends. We just did Androgen Society meeting. Erwin, we just awarded him the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, he so deserves that.
And do you remember we were with Erwin and Sue at the Katz Deli?
Yes, in New York. Oh, that was a blast that night. We had a lot of fun that night.
That's the famous deli where in the movie When Harry Met Sally, Sally, played by Meg Ryan, fakes an orgasm to prove, because Billy Crystal, the male lead, says he always knows if a woman's having an orgasm. He says, no, women can fake it. Goes, no way, I would know. And then
guys always think that.
Yeah, they always think that. Yeah. And there's a sign up in the deli where they filmed it, right over the spot where she was sitting. And of course, the end of the scene, after she moans and she groans and she has this earth-shattering fake, but earth-shattering orgasm climax. The best line is, there's another customer who's sitting nearby who says, I'll have what she's having.
and it is orgasmic, that food. Like, yeah. I love that food.
Yeah. So, Bremelanotide, or by its trade name, Vyleesi.
Right. That's how people would find it, Vyleesi.
Vyleesi is a trademarked drug that's approved for use in premenopausal women who have HSDD, hypoactive sexual desire disorder, which means they have low libido.
It's an injectable that women take pretty much right before they want to have sex.
Ideally 45 minutes before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's for raising libido, raising interest.
Right. It works through the dopaminergic pathways. And it has an interesting... So what this abstract was about is it's approved in women. But it turns out that the Goldsteins have been using it in men too, off-label, and they did a little questionnaire of the guys who were doing it and the women, and the guys refilled it at a higher rate than the women.
Isn't that funny?
And refills generally means they think it's worth doing it.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And they thought that it helped with their erections, with the quality of sex.
Wow.
Really, really interesting.
Wow.
Now, most people hear this and they say, well, guys are using the drug for women. Does that make any sense? But, it's some of these distinctions, like also premenopausal, postmenopausal, these are strategies that drug companies use to get approval of a drug, right? So they have to pick a population. Sometimes the FDA which sometimes has a little bug up its backside.
Mm-hmm.
It says, okay, in premenopausal women, not in post, when often it can be useful in both.
Mm-hmm.
There's another drug for women with HSDD, which is already approved, called Addy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Flibanserin.
People know that years ago is the little pink pill.
Yep. And that now the FDA just announced that it's planning to do a rapid review to look at data for postmenopausal women.
That's great.
Because until now, it's only been approved also in premenopausal women.
Makes total sense.
But the story of bremelanotide is that it started with men.
This bremelanotide, the injectable, started with men.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It would start with men not as an injectable, but as a nose spray.
Huh.
So it's called, and it's
For sex.
for sex. And the interest in this started before Viagra was around.
Oh my goodness.
That's where the research was. I think that once Viagra and Cialis came out, it was probably, I don't know this for sure, but I would speculate that this drug wasn't as good. And so harder to kind of justify it.
I see.
And it has one side effect that is troublesome, and was what they reported in their abstract, which is it can cause nausea, which is not a very sexy.
So you're right, and that does make me wonder. Maybe the guys are like, it's worth the nausea, and the women are like, no fucking way am I doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I could see something like that happening.
Yeah.
Of course, the nausea is supposed to be worst with the first time you use it and gets less. But I don't know. It's not a majority of people who get nausea, but it happens a fair number. I think in that study it was 30%. But it started as a nose spray because the nasal spray, the roof of the palate, top of the mouth, is very close to the brain.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the physiology of this, but its nasal sprays has been used as a way to try and get drugs into the brain because it's closer, it's more direct. It could be at a higher concentration in this area before it gets into the bloodstream and all that. So this was a nasal spray, and it goes by before it got trademarked. There's PT 141, and you can actually get PT 141 from compounding pharmacies.
Really?
And so there are people who now still use bremelanotide, PT 141, as an injectable to help them with erectile dysfunction.
So could you use the nasal to help you with erectile?
I don't know if the nasal's available, but maybe the compounding pharmacies are using that too. Today it's a subcutaneous injection.
Okay. When this came out, I was thinking to myself, this is never going to take off because show me the woman that's going to inject herself. Well, now I would never say that because with GLP-1s,
Right.
Women are injecting themselves left and right. So that's a no-brainer.
Isn't that something, right?
Yeah.
So injectables sound terrible until you're used to doing it.
Right.
And then if it's a small needle, and this thing, so this injection is like an auto-injector, like it's painless, happens quickly. You just pinch a little bit of belly fat where you can do it into your thigh.
So an auto-injector is like, boom.
Yeah, you put it up against your butt, against your belly. You push a little button, and it does all the work for you. It's like preloaded. It's not like going to the doctor's office for an injection. It's you do it at home. Be terrible if you have to go to the doctor's office and then run home.
That would be that would kind of like ruin, I would think, the moment.
Yeah.
That would be a little challenging.
Yeah.
Right.
So some of the criticism around this for women has been, well, why would women want to do that? Right? Why would women want to take an injection? Are they doing this for the guy?
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me?
You have a reaction, Dr. Brandon? So
I'm not surprised that you've heard that attitude because I've heard that attitude about other medications for women as well. I think it would be difficult for a woman to even get prescribed these kinds of medicines if she didn't really say to her doctor she wanted it. Because if a patient says to us, I'm doing this for my husband or my partner, that doesn't then meet the criteria for even a sexual dysfunction. Right. So that's a rule out right there. So I think it would be very hard for the medicine even to be prescribed in that in that incident. But also I would say, when people have challenges in their sex life, that's very difficult for everybody, including the person with low desire.
Right.
So like it's affecting their lives oftentimes in a very significant way.
Right. So this argument came out also with Addy or
Right.
Flubanser. And if I may speak a little French, it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the most absurd argument I've ever heard. Of course, if a man can't get it up, he wants treatment for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a woman isn't getting pleasure from sex, but she used to,
Mm-hmm.
and she wants that back, who's being abused here? There's no victim here.
No.
This is
Yeah.
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 I held back from saying it's stupid. It's stupid. It's a bad argument, and it's not like the women are doing this only to please their men.
Right. Like they're victims and
They have no say over their own bodies. If they're injecting themselves, they want to be doing this, and there are all sorts of good reasons why they may.
That's a very good point.
And this is for their pleasure.
So back to the guys, like how effective was it for men? Did they get into that in this article?
So they only know who was willing to answer the questions, but they did have the refill rate, and the refill rate was somewhere around 2/3. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. And around for the women, I think it was around 50%.
That's good too.
Also and they looked pre and post menopause, so it was about the same.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's funny. We don't think about PT-141 much for men. We don't think about Vyleesi much for men.
Mm-hmm.
So in our armamentarium, if you will, for men who are having trouble around erections, normally we think about the pills. If one doesn't work well at full dose, maybe try another one. If that's not working, certainly you should have checked the testosterone before. Let's make sure that's normal. We normalize that. Some of us, me especially, will usually normalize the testosterone before we even get to the pills.
Yeah.
And then we go on with our different choices, including penile injections or vacuum devices, and eventually the penile prosthesis. But this abstract reminds me that some of these medicines are certainly worth trying in men.
Yes.
Yeah. And even going back to Flubanser or Addy, there's some benefit to that. The original studies, before it was decided that should be in women exclusively, was also that it was used in men, and it showed good responses in men too.
So if someone watching, wants to get a hold of this, wants to try this, a guy, and he goes to his doctor, and first of all, his doctor probably doesn't even know about
Most
this.
doctors have no idea that this exists.
Yeah.
Even for women.
Right.
Right? Like these things are not particularly marketed now.
No.
Right?
No.
They show up at some of the sexual medicine meetings. But even so, I think the makers of Vyleesi, like, in some of the meetings that I organize or I participate in, we don't see them. So like their brand recognition is close to zero.
Right. So first of all, the physician's going to not know what is being discussed.
Don't know what it is.
Right. But then when they find out it's for women, like it's going to be hard for a viewer to get a hold of this if they want to try it.
Yeah. So and maybe easier for them to get something through the compounding pharmacy from a physician that's interested. PT-140.
So what would be the argument? What would they say? They would say that they saw the podcast, Abe Morgentaler.
Yeah, can you look
into about some research?
I think the way to respectfully say this to your physician is to say, I saw a podcast with the brilliant Dr. Marianne Brandon and the wonderful Dr. Morgentaler, and they were talking about this drug called Vyleesi, or the underlying compound is Bremelanotide, and I'd like to try it.
That it was being studied in men by the Goldsteins.
Yeah, and if the average doctor won't know who the Goldsteins are, but
I don't know how that's possible. But okay,
present in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, and it had reasonable success, and I'd like to try that.
And the doctor then says, "You know what? This is off label. I'm not comfortable. What's their next step? Do they have to give up, or what they can do?"
This on-label, off-label thing is hard. So most mainstream doctors are taught, and I consider myself a mainstream doctor. Are taught that you really need to stick with the indications, and you should use drugs that are available through your regular pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, etc., and not the compounding pharmacies. But the compounding pharmacies have been, and I used to have that attitude too, probably for the first 20 years of my career, and I had good arguments for them. And I hear some of my colleagues say the same things. We say, well, we know it's gone through the FDA process and it's regulated, and we know what's what. most of these drugs now, there was a big shakedown of the mom and pop compounding pharmacies probably about 20 years ago, when there was a couple of disasters with non-sterile medications being injected into important places.
I thought when that shakedown happened, it would just be the end of compounding.
So all the small places basically disappeared. FDA started really monitoring these, and some of these pharmacies now have a designation. I may get this wrong. I think it's called a 503B designation, where the FDA inspects them really carefully. And the quality has to be equal to the labs that produce the pharmaceutical drugs that you buy through the normal pharmacy.
That's fair.
And certainly for sterile compounds. And so there's an extra level if you're doing sterile stuff, which is usually injectables. So
everybody's held to the same standards now. That makes sense.
Yeah, more or less the same standards. The ones that do the biggest, that are allowed to send their drugs out of state, have the highest standards they have to achieve.
Yeah.
And sterile products like injectables are also higher, rather than something you can take by mouth. So I don't know enough. I don't feel like I have enough expertise to say that it's exactly the same, but I could tell you that they're commonly used. We find a lot of drugs that you can't otherwise get, especially in sexual medicine. We've been we use off-label drugs through compounding pharmacies all the time.
So, this makes me wonder if a guy wants to try this, he can go to a compounding pharmacy and say, what doctors do you think would be amenable to this?
You could do that
because the pharmacy knows who they're working with.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Cut through some of the shit.
That's very clever.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it. You're a good researcher.
Oh, yes. I do my best.
Yeah, fine stuff, Harry. Yeah. So anyway, so in sexual medicine, we're so used to this. So the most important, probably most commonly prescribed drug in sexual medicine for men with ED is called Trimix. It's an injection that people use. They inject it in the side of the penis when the pills like Viagra and Cialis don't work. This has been around longer than those drugs. It's in clinical guidelines about its use, lots of studies, long track record, great. But guess what? You can't get it through a Walgreens or a CVS because it's not a brand label drug. And so when I started my practice in 1988, and you've met Kevin Flynn, who worked with me as my nurse. We used to, before I even knew that compounding pharmacies existed, like they weren't within my radar, we used to compound this ourselves.
Oh my goodness!
So Trimix is 3 medicines: it's papaverine, phentolamine, and L-prostadil. And we would get all 3 of the components.
And Kevin would make it?
Using sterile technique, but still we're not within necessarily a sterile place.
Yeah.
You would never, ever, ever do that these days, right?
Yeah.
But we used to make our own and use them.
Very creative.
Yeah, well, we weren't the first to do it. We learned from other people about how to do that.
Wow.
And so the compounding of this is tried and true, and it's off-label. And off-label means that the FDA did not give approval to this drug or combination of drugs with an indication that, say, is for erectile dysfunction. And it'll never happen. The reason it'll never happen is no drug company is going to go through the very expensive proposition of getting a drug through FDA approval with component drugs that are generic. They've been around for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
So you can't make your money back, so you're not going to try. And because you're not going to try, there's never going to be an on-label indication for these drugs.
Oh my goodness. So
just because a doctor uses something off-label doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's not illegal. It's not illicit. It's not unethical. It's just how our system works.
Okay, so in review, Bremelanotide.
Yeah.
If a guy wants to try it, he could try it for libido.
Yep.
How about erections?
Yep.
And orgasm?
Yep.
Okay, and a woman, it can be for libido.
Yep.
Arousal.
Yep.
Orgasm.
Yep.
Okay, did I miss anything?
No, you got it.
Okay.
That's as good a summary as any.
Excellent. And you go to your compounding pharmacy if your doctor gives you a blank stare when you ask for it.
Yeah. Or you can ask for Vyleesi, which is the trade name. You can probably find it online.
Or you can go visit the Goldsteins in California.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Erwin and Sue? Coming at
Give them our best.
yeah. Say hi to those folks. Well, Dr. Brandon, it's a pleasure as always to see you.
You too.
Talk sex,
Yeah.
sex therapy.
Yeah.
And thus ends another episode of The Sex Doctors. You can find us online at thesexdoctorspodcast.com. And we'll see you again for our next episode.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.